Welcome to TE Walks Live, Episode 5. Mario and Thomas go to the Jewish ghetto. In our final segment, our final episode, Thomas and Mario will be walking through the central main street of the Jewish ghetto. We'll talk about some of the lovely restaurants that are there, what are their favorites, look into the Portico d'Ottavia, and also take a deep look at the temple, the main temple, the synagogue, the Tempio Maggiore. Also, Mario and Thomas and Dylan have a little altercation with the police, and eventually we'll finish this day on one of the most beautiful spots of Rome, the Tiber Island, where it all began.
They can live anywhere, but they had been kept poor for so long and uneducated for so long, and they managed their own education amongst themselves. But it took a while before, about a couple of generations before they were back at school getting university degrees, professional jobs, doctors, lawyers, accountants. And then, of course, with the rise of fascism, we start all over again. And then after the Second World War, have to start from all over again. But still, not that it's not that the majority of the inhabitants of this neighborhood are Jewish, but there is a higher percentage of Jewish people living in this neighborhood than any other neighborhood in the city. Oh, let's go over this way.
Günther Demning, that was his name. Thank you, Rob. Like the stumbling stones in English.
Stumbling stones.
Yeah, well, translating from the Stolpersteine. I love this as one of the most beautiful examples of what Renaissance art does, right? And the Renaissance mindset. This inscription here in Latin.
It's not an ancient inscription. It's reused ancient stone.
Exactly.
With a new inscription. And gives the name, of course, of the guy whose house it was, but also the date.
You can see better from here.
But not the date in the year of our Lord, but the date in the year of Rome.
Yeah, you can actually see it here, right?
And the way we say 763 BC by the we count time is Rome's traditional birthday, April 21st, 753 BC. But for that, what we would call 753 BC was year one of Rome. So he just kind of takes 14, whatever it is, adds 753, and puts that date according to the year of Rome. That was a rather interesting and kind of controversial statement at the time.
So, what is the best restaurant around here? I mean, they're all kosher, I guess. Aren't they?
No, they're not. They're not all kosher restaurants. Most of them along here are, but not all of them are. My favorite is probably Nonna Betta and Giardino Romano.
Mm-hmm.
That are a little bit closer up to the portico, that ancient portico from the time of Caesar Augustus. And in fact, behind that, up ahead, you can see the sun hitting part of the Theater of Marcellus where we started.
I don't see too many with mouth masks on. Well, they have the mouth mask.
Yeah, kind of hanging around.
It's relaxing. This is actually a school, right?
Yeah.
What does it say? Elementary school.
Yeah. Well, this is the yeshiva. So you see the kids who are actually going to school here, as this is where they go to school. But then even kids who are going to other schools come here for Hebrew school, where they're learning the Torah, they're learning the Hebrew language. So, you see the kids out kicking the soccer ball until the bell rings, call them back in, got to go, time for Hebrew school. Kids, because, as the Italians say, it's all one village. And come Friday and they're running out, they got to get home before the sun goes down. And, you get all these kids in line at the bread stores. And they're all on their phones, and they're all saying, yeah, Mom, I'm in line, Mom. I didn't forget the challah. I'm in line. Give me a break. I'll be home in a lit.
Yeah, it's very quiet. Is it true that they're open one side and then the other?
Yeah, because the better restaurants are on the right side anyway.
The better restaurants. Look at that. Better restaurants.
In fact, Ghetto here got so successful because it is a kosher restaurant. So you've got two separate kitchens, two separate sets of plates, etc. But they got so successful that they split the whole restaurant. So where we were over there on the other corner is the Milky, and this is the Fleisch.
Oh, true.
honestly, I prefer this restaurant though. And then across over on the other side, you got right next to each other.
Pick up the meats, right? That's what you're.
Yeah. I'm a carnivore. And then over on the left, you got Nonna Betta nel Giardino Romano.
She doesn't. She seems to be in holiday. Nonna Betta.
Yeah, these guys are open though. And in the back, it's very long and narrow, but at the back, there's an outdoor garden with a fountain and plants, and it's in a tiny little, basically a courtyard between two buildings. And here what you had, just up ahead, were two huge temples. You got the big portico, but then one temple on each side, one to Jupiter and one to Juno. And each of those temples had a porticoed walkway in front of it. And here what you see, these columns that stood in front of the temple of Juno. In fact, you turn around, you can see one sticking right up out of the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah, just walking there, stumbling upon him.
Yeah. I've heard people say, and it's understandable, oh, Rome is like an outdoor museum. And it is in many ways. However, museums often, they house things kind of in a fishbowl. And you go and you look at them. Rome is a city of 3.5 million people. We just keep using the same space over and over and over and over and over, build around it. So people are having their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner, smoking their cigarettes, hanging out with their neighbors in the middle of all of this.
Yeah. Should try and get somewhere further away.
This has just recently been restored as well. It was under scaffolding for years.
Yeah. Oh, look at that! I've never seen it with the fresco in the front.
Yeah. And those frescoes, all this brick stuff with the fresco work, that's Carolingian. Because it was a church. What was this big sort of library cum social center built by Caesar Augustus, this portico between the two temples, names after his sister. It's why it's called the Portico of Octavia. Of course, it gets turned into a church, it still is. In fact, I think it's an evangelical church, a South American evangelical group uses it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, look, yeah, sure. We can walk up to this little bridge and see the Theatre of Marcellus again from here. Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty shot. And you see a little bit of everything. You see ancient, medieval, Renaissance, facelift, and Baroque domes, just in a blink. And all of this stuff on this side is built over the ruins of the Temple of Jupiter. And you see right down there the base, the raised podium of that portico, and some of the columns of the portico that was in front of the Temple of Jupiter. And of course the Temple of Marcellus. You see 3 huge columns sticking up. Temple of Apollo.
So that was the same street that we were standing on before.
Right, we were still just on the other side of that, on that Via del Mare, the old Via del Mare. Mm-hmm. Now it's just called Theatre of Marcellus Street.
And then it's a very modern synagogue.
There was at least a certain degree of tolerance, even during the time of the Jewish ghetto. Well, as far as the Pope was concerned, you're worshiping the right God at least. But there are many different traditions. You had a couple of Roman groups. You had a group of people that were escaping Ferdinand and Isabella's repression in Spain. And of course, Sicily and Naples were all ruled by the Spanish Bourbons back then. So they're escaping persecution, coming to Rome where there was more tolerance until 1555 when there wasn't anymore. And they said, well, we got, 5 different traditions happening here. And the Pope said, you get one building, one door, make do. And so they did. They split it up into 5 different spaces inside. And they called it the 5 schools. Well, that burns down. Surprisingly, right about the time the city is wanting to use this great riverfront property. And of course, the Jews wouldn't sell. And they're saying, well, but you were prisoners in this neighborhood for so long. Why don't you sell up? Well, because we've lived here for 300 years. Our parents, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, we're all here. This is our home. We want to be able to do the jobs we want, fix up our houses, but that doesn't mean we don't want to live here anymore. And all of a sudden, shocking, it burns down. And that's when they make these modern buildings where now the yeshiva is now. And it's only in the very beginning of the 20th century that they get this thing done. The middle of the first decade of the 20th century is when the synagogue is consecrated, and it's done very deliberately in a particular kind of style. They call it an Assyrian Babylonian style. The theory is, when the first Babylonian captivity, when Nebuchadnezzar takes Jews to Babylon, and for 70 years they build stuff. Even back then, the Jewish builders, stonemasons, and carpenters were amongst the most respected in the entire Mediterranean world. But of course, they're building things in a Babylonian style because that's where they are.
But do we actually know, or is it because
it's presumed
this is what they think is how it was supposed to look?
Yeah, exactly. So when the idea is that when they leave Babylon,
Sorry, I was trying to fix the microphone.
When they go back to, the area of Palestine and what's now Israel, they build the second temple. The idea is, at least the theory is, what they knew how to build was Babylonian style stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and the idea is that the second temple would have looked. We don't really know exactly what that second temple looked like, but then that was destroyed at the end of the first century, the Common Era, first century AD, under Vespasian, his son Titus, and the resubjugation of Jerusalem, the destruction of the second temple. But then when they build this one, early 20th century, they build it in that idea of what that second temple might have looked like.
Exactly. That's what I was mentioning. It's just so beautiful. It's the only building that actually has a square dome, right?
Yeah. And on the inside, you get these multicolored rainbow motif, very kind of Liberty style. That Liberty style, again, beginning of the 20th century, the end of the 19th, that Art Nouveau.
Jugendstil.
Art Nouveau.
Is it all the same? Se andiamo di là? Sì.
Italiani?
Viviamo tutti qua.
Scusate, turisti?
No, siamo qui in Turchia.
Guide turisti? No, ok, il motivo per cui state facendo questa ripresa?
Sì,
Aspetta,
giusto. Yeah, so when things are live, then this can happen. So right behind us, we have the synagogue again. So we were stopped by a few police officers who have just taken in Thomas. So we're not sure. Oh no, here he is. Yeah, silly us.
They were
going
to take me in.
They wanted to take. You wanted to go with them. So yeah, we just decided to.
But as they said in their words, it's a sensitive spot. And they're like, okay, so you could only because you were hanging around and you were spending some time talking about, like, yeah, well, we're tour guides. Oh, okay. Well, can I see your documents, please? Show me your papers. But they were very nice.
They
very
were not saying that
respectful.
with a German accent.
No.
So we decided just to make sure that we were going to leave you with this beautiful shot and not us getting arrested by police officers. Because here we're crossing the bridge that gets you onto the Tiber Island. So here, see the Tiber River running.
And I think, interestingly, the oldest bridge in Paris is called Le Pont. The oldest existing bridge in Paris is Le Pont Neuf, which ironically means the new bridge. It's from the end of the 16th century. We're in the oldest bridge in Rome. It's from the reign of Caesar Augustus, from the end of the first century BC. Still here. We're walking on it now.
And of course, the synagogue once more on the top.
And Our Lady of the Lamppost.
It's an important one, right?
And this island has been associated with the healing arts for a very, very long time. What was it, 3rd century BC? When they
guess
send
so,
the
sure.
delegation.
And you already had... No, that was already BC, I guess.
Yeah. They send the delegation. There was a pestilence dropping people like flies through Rome. And They sent a delegation to a Greek island which has a temple of Aesculapius. Aesculapius, the scalpel is named after him. He's a son of Apollo and is associated with the healing arts. They send a representative. They give him a snake, the symbol of Aesculapio. And they say, well, when you bring the snake back to Rome, the snake will let you know where to build the temple. Like, well, how's the snake going to let us know? He will, don't worry about it. So sure enough, the boat comes in, docks, and the snake escapes the hold of the ship. They see him in the river, pops his head up, dips back down underneath the island, never to be seen again. Like, oh, okay, I guess we're building the temple on the island. And they did, but along with that temple comes with that temple, it's priests, it's doctor priests. And what do we have now? We have a hospital run by monks, still.
The entrance to the hospital, right? I can't see that much from the outside.
And the guy who initiates the order on his deathbed, and he said basically, do well, my brothers. Fate bene, fratelli. And the name of the order now is called the Fate bene, fratelli. So it's basically the Do Well Brothers. That's the name of the hospital as well. Pretty good hospital as well. I've known a few people who've had to spend some time there. What a view they've got.
Oh yeah, well I can actually tell you our 3 children were born here. You get the most beautiful rooms to that side of the river.
Yeah.
You got this awesome view. Well, now you got cars. We hear this view of the Church of St. Bartholomew.
Which has the remains, the relic of the body itself of St. Bartholomew?
No.
I get out of a lot of trouble by saying things like, tradition informs and Holy Mother Church teaches, and then you do it at what you like.
Well then, with this view, Pip, we'll have to...
We're looking right into the sun there.
Yeah, but now we're going to switch the camera and they'll see us again. Can we? Oh yeah, you're looking to the sun.
I'm looking right into the sun. That's what I'm doing.
So thank you so much for watching us.
Thank you guys. Come to Rome as soon as you can. We're here.
And of course, check our Facebook page and look at our virtual tours. So Katerina is doing a great tour in the Jewish ghetto. And what did we talk more about?
We mentioned Graceland's of Ostia Antica, Rome's ancient port city. That's going to be out very, very shortly. I'm actually coming out with one in Paris, our first foray for these digital tours outside of Italy. That'll be up within a week or two. A 2-part series on the history of the Louvre. But looking at history of the Louvre is essentially a history of France itself. That's coming up soon. I'm plugging myself. That's what I'm doing.
Well, Thomas, Mario, and Dylan, we're out.
Ciao. Arrivederci.
And this concludes our 5-part series of TE Walks Live going into the Jewish Quarter with Mario and Thomas. We hope you enjoyed these tours. Be sure to check out other videos that we'll be showing on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and click on the bell. Thanks everyone so much. Bye-bye.